With new McValue at McDonald's, you get more than you expect. So after a long day, buy a double cheeseburger and add a McChicken for $1. Because saving with deals is always on the menu. With new McValue.
Prices and participation may vary. Valid for item of equal or lesser value.
All right, guys, how you doing? It's Jax Taylor, and welcome back to In the Mind of a Man. I'm super excited today for today's episode. Lots been going on this last week, but I've been waiting to have this guest on for a while now, and I'm really excited about today's conversation for many reasons. I think it's going to be incredibly insightful because, well, I'm sitting here with the renowned Dr. Drew. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I feel like a lot of people associate you with television and, how you become such a huge media personality in the industry. But first and foremost, you're a physician and addiction medicine specialist, which is something that I can relate to, and I've been involved in a lot lately, which I feel also has given everything that I've been personally going through this year and kind of dealing with different therapists and different doctors, I couldn't have a more perfect guest on is what I'm trying to say. And I'm excited to pick your brain. I'm also excited for you to pick my brain a little bit and, try to understand the journey that I'm kind of going on right now. So honestly, thank you so much, Dr. Drew, for being here today and coming on. Thanks for being here.
Pleasure. Good to see you. I'm glad you're getting better, getting the help you need. That's good. Can you talk about it in total? Can we get into it?
I'm going to get into it. First, I just want to. We'll get into that in a second. First, can I just say, obviously I've known you from way back in the day because I used to watch you on VH1 and Celebrity Rehab and all that stuff. Do you think personally, though? I mean, I know you don't know me that well. I have been on your podcast a few years back. Do you think I would have been a good fit for Celebrity Rehab? And if you were to be on Celebrity Rehab again, what do you think it would come back?
So to answer, that's sort of two questions.
Yeah, two questions. Sorry.
One is anybody that needed help and needed sort of residential level of care, we treated them. That was that. And if you were open to that kind of treatment, sure, you would have been somebody that we would enjoy helping.
How did that show come about? Was that your idea?
No, but let me say number two. I'll tell you the story in just a second, but it is probably not coming back. I'd be happy to do it. I mean, God knows there's a lot of people that need help, and it helped motivate people to get in and get care. That's for sure. So a lot of people did really well that would not have otherwise received treatment. But I was doing a lot of commentary at the time on CNN and HLN about, sort of celebrities in the news and stuff. And we were making the point that, look, they're in trouble. Stop making fun of them. Anna Nicole Smith, I was saying, you are watching somebody die of addiction and you're making fun of this woman. This is disgusting. And she died. There it was. And so these television producers showed up and said, we want to do a show where you treat, you do your treatment program with celebrities. And I was like, well, that's a really interesting idea. It will never happen. It will never happen. You just can't do it. Oh, let us talk to the hospital. I said, you can talk to them. I promise you it will not happen. They were laughed out of the hospital.
Was it because you didn't think that these celebrities were going to open up 100%? Or
no,
did you think it was the liability?
You can't bring cameras even near a psychiatric hospital. So, and I knew that there was just no way. And the hospital confirmed that. But then they kind of kept saying, well, let's pitch it. Let's figure something out. So you know how it is. I went around and pitched it. And then VH1 showed interest and I went into hiding. I was like, oh no, I don't know about this. I'm really have grave concerns. And Bob Forrest, the guy with the glasses and the hat, came in my office one day and he goes, I am so sick and tired of the media making fun of our patients and making it seem like they're on some sort of spa vacation or making excuses for their condition. They work hard. They are sick. We need to do a TV show where we show that. And I was stunned. I was like, Bob, I don't know if somebody's gotten your ear or what, but I'm surprised to hear you say that. But somebody's interested in that. And he goes, we have to do it. And he smacked his hands down and he walked out of my office. And I thought, well, if Bob really thinks it's a good idea, I guess I'll go back and talk to VH1. Still, I had no idea how we were going to do it. But then I thought, there's this psychiatrist that runs a residential program up at the top of Pasadena. And I bet I could take my treatment team and just insert them on a unit there and use their policies and procedures. And if somebody was too sick for that environment, we just send them down to the psych hospital. But I bet we could do it. And I went up there and talked to the guy, and he was like, "Oh, it'd be great, so fun." I was like, "Okay, let's try it." And so it kept going, and all of a sudden we were doing this thing.
And when oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I was just curious, like, so when it did get taken off, when it said, "Okay, we're going to do this," how do you, without like, with the HIPAA laws and all that stuff, how do you find these celebrities? I mean, there's probably so much that goes into it. There's probably tons of paperwork that has to go into something like this, because there's so many laws with this kind of thing. And you got to find a celebrity that's humble enough that can put their ego and check it at the door, that's willing to be open and honest and say, "Hey, listen, this is what's been going on," because a lot of obviously celebrities have egos and they don't want to let the public know how they're really feeling. So it takes a really strong
and they were paid for this too. They got paid, and they wanted to be on TV. So there was that secondary gain that motivated them to come in. And we had this really interesting experience where the first 2 weeks I was freaked out. Every day I was like, "Are you guys okay? Are you okay? Is this bothering you? The cameras bug you? Are you okay? You're getting good care, blah, blah, blah." And finally, Mary Carey, the porn star, leaned into me and she goes, "Drew, I've done just about everything on camera. I understand what this is." And I thought, oh yeah, these guys know what it means to be on camera.
Yeah.
They get it.
But you're also being the doctor. You're trying to create a good TV show. You're also a doctor. You also know what's ethical, what's not ethical. You're trying to bring in all worlds without offending the producers, without offending the clients, without offending the viewers. You're trying to blink, like, I get it. You probably are like, "Oh my God, am I doing everything right?" Checking to make sure you're doing everything right.
It was a little, you're right. There were a lot of different gods I was serving, but it's a little different. When the producers started screwing with the patients, I freaked out. I was like, okay, nobody can get near these patients. I swear to God, you get near them, I'm going to effing take them down the street and pull them out of here and put them in the psych hospital down the street. I swear to God, stay away from these patients. So I had to set these boundaries around the patients. And it got so bad, I said, "Hey, no one can even make eye contact with me or the patients." Do you understand me?
For instance, like, if you don't mind, I mean, we don't have to get too into it, but for like, when you say you didn't want the producers to mess with the talent, meaning they were peppering them with questions when you were
like
looking?
2 days in, these people are in acute withdrawal. And a producer went into, like, I don't know, Jessica Sierra's room and goes, "Jessica, do you hear what Mary's saying about you? She says you're a bitch." I'm like, "What?" She's in withdrawal. What is going on here?
Right.
I couldn't believe it. Because the reality is, I just kept telling them, shit goes down in a drug treatment program. You don't have to do anything. Shit will go down, I promise.
Yeah.
Just stay away. Let me do my job. And we had this very interesting experience with everybody, which was a godsend, which they all went from, "I came in to get paid and be on TV and to screw with you guys. I realized you were taking treatment seriously. I started getting something substantial out of it. And now I want to be an example for other people." Every single patient went through that. It was incredible. I was so grateful for that. And so, people ended up getting something out of it, wanting to do it, staying with it. Many of them did well for long periods of time.
And
it's a daily thing. You got to be with it from now on, or it comes back. It's like diabetes.
Exactly.
You got to work with it forever.
It's one of those things that, like, I feel like I'm in a good place, but I'm going to have to deal with this the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. And when you go back to the thing, I'm like, this is already interesting in itself, watching celebrities go through what they're going through. Yeah, the producers don't have to add. They just feel like it's like automatically in their brain to, like, look, what can we do to stir the pot? You're like, leave it alone. These people are already interesting in themselves. We want to know how they got to this point. Stop making drama that's not even there. They're creating stuff that wasn't even there. They already have enough shit in their lives. They don't need any more.
That's right. No, that's right. And we eventually got there. And they did a great job. Listen, they did a wonderful job of producing. I couldn't. Jesus, the things hoops we had to jump through to get this thing to go. And it was a long time I just said, leave it alone. Let me treat the patients, and it'll be fine. Don't worry.
And that was, how many years ago was this?
It was like, I think it was like 2006 to 2010, sort of in that zone. Yeah.
So could this show possibly, I mean, now the times have changed, the world's different. Could you still do a show like how you did it then, do it now? Or no?
It would be different, but you could do it. Yeah. It would be really interesting, actually, because we would do some things differently and we would do some things the same.
And plus the generations are different now. You got different people rising up, the millennials, the Gen Zs, they had different problems as opposed to the kids today,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think that'd be fascinating. I think it'd be really interesting.
So especially since social media has been such a huge thing in the world, and that takes I think that can.
Well, Jack, to your point, somebody said we should do a process addiction show. You know, people addicted to their phones, and there are programs for that out there. I'm, you know, process addiction. When it becomes something that you need somebody like me to help with, it usually goes to gambling or porn. That's when they really lose control.
Just to get back to this, touch on this really quick. I think I can talk about this. I'm not sure. But so the first time I went to rehab, the first time I checked myself in, we were filming the show and I took myself out of the show and went to rehab. Now, knowing that my cast was probably talking about me the whole time, I was in my head and I couldn't focus the first time on why I was supposed to be there, on why I was trying to get to work and get the help, because I knew in the back of my head that the cast is filming in Santa Barbara somewhere or wherever the hell they were filming. And I knew they were talking about me and I had access to my phone and everyone was like, how come you have your phone?
Right.
And by law, the state of California can't take away your phone for a certain after 3 days. And I couldn't focus because my brain was just like, I know they're talking about me. So I would go through the steps, I go through the therapy, and then I go back to my room and get on my phone and basically just everything I learned, I forget about, you know?
Which, by the way, is another interesting sort of variable in trying to help people with these conditions, right?
Yeah.
When I was doing this work in the 80s and 90s, the phone, it was just like there was a pay phone we had outside. They lined up to use the pay phone. That was it.
I think they should really, you know, find a way to take away people's phones when they're in therapy. It's a huge, I tell you what, when I didn't have my phone in the first 3 days, it was tough probably the first 20 hours. And then after that, and then when I got my phone back, I almost didn't want it. I was
it's a relief to not have it. Yeah,
it was amazing. I felt so good. And it was just like, and then I got it back and then I went down the rabbit hole again.
Well, but I see you beating yourself up about, you know, not having sustained sobriety after treatment. There's something that people need to understand about treatment and about addiction. It usually, commonly, typically takes multiple treatments before you get that sustained sobriety. And you just have to do the work. You have to do what's required for you. The only alternative to that is staying in a structured environment for a long, long period of time. And most people aren't able or don't want to do that.
Yeah, it takes a lot of work. And like I said, the first stint, I relapsed and I went back for 17 more days. And then I was like, okay, I'm good. And I got out and I've been now good for 134 days, I think we're at.
Congratulations.
Feeling really good. I don't ever see myself going back there again. But I got to admit, you know, the pressures of being on reality TV are there. And what I want to get into is, so actually now you know that I've recently been sober, and I went to the facility twice last summer. I was also recently diagnosed with bipolar PTSD. I want to know do you think being on reality television for as long as I have been, which is about 14 years, has had an effect? I know, like, has an effect on me, and like, because you've been in this world for a very long time, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are when it comes to me, and if you have any insight advice for any. For the journey that I've been on, basically.
Well, let's just step back and say, could my work be affecting my emotional condition?
Right.
It's not different than saying I've been a special forces member for 14 years. Do you think it had an effect on me? Yeah. I mean, our work, all kinds of work has all sorts of effects on who we are and how we regulate our emotions and things. And certainly reality TV is its own roller coaster with its own stressors and its own craziness, and I use that broad brush craziness because each show is different, each cast is different, each demand is different, and eventually, I think people don't appreciate this. You become dependent on it. It's just something interesting you're doing. Then it becomes something you're dependent on for your livelihood.
Right.
Then it gets extra stressful.
Right.
Just because it can be taken away from you in an instant.
And it's happened to me. And it's like, I'm changing my life for the better right now. I believe that my alcoholism and addiction is going to make me a better person. I have to look at the silver lining, and I'm like, you know what? This is going to make me a better person. And I'm scared because for so long, I've been on a TV show and I've been typecasted as the villain, the bad boy, the guy that causes the chaos, and people. Did I like myself? No. But I got validation from the fans and everybody was loving who I am. Yeah, I didn't like myself, but I'm making money and people love who I am. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, even though I'm killing myself inside.
Right. You need to write a book. Because people don't appreciate how you roll down that hill.
Right.
I get it.
You're looking back at your producers. They're giving you the okay. You're not doing anything wrong. So
it's
you just
all
keep
reinforced.
doing what you're doing.
It's carefully reinforced, carefully orchestrated.
I'm
Not
not
blaming
blaming
anybody
No, no,
or
no.
yourself. It's just how it works.
It's just like I got, the drinking and everything was just, it turned me into this persona, this
Mm-hmm.
larger than life character. And then
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't turn it off anymore. And I was like, well, I'm using it. And the problem, and not a problem, that I go to therapy now. And what I'm worried about, I'm 45 years old. I shouldn't be worried about it, but I've been in this game for so long. Now that I've going to therapy, going to AA, getting the work that I need to be done, becoming a better person.
Mm.
Am I still going to be liked by my peers? Am I still going to be interesting enough to where people are going to be like,
Yeah.
and I struggle with that because I want people to still
So hold
like
on.
me.
So slow down. So pretty much every alcoholic addict that is a creative person or a performer says things like that. Pretty much everyone. I'm never going to be able to song again. I'm never going to be able to creative. I'm never going to be able to perform in front of people. I'm going to be whatever. I'm going to change. I'm not. It always is better. You want to talk to is the situation, Mike. The situation.
Yeah, I plan on having him on.
You ought to talk to Mike because he same stuff, same thought process, and he will tell you that's distortion. That's not good. It is. And just to, you got to understand the way alcoholism and addiction works. Everything it can use, it will use against you.
Right.
Every positive attribute you have, every negative attribute you have, every good thought and every bad thought will start getting twisted as a way of maintaining the using. That's how the disease works.
Right.
And so you got to watch out for everything. It's why you have to reflect everything off your sponsor, your therapist, other people in the program. So you go, hey, I'm thinking about this crazy shit. Is that real? Should I worry about it? And listen to them when they give you feedback.
Yeah, I've been doing that. My sponsors and everybody's been so amazing, and I think it's just a new journey. The problem I have here, and like I said, I'm only 34 days in, and it's not the alcohol. I have no craving for it. I don't ever want to go back to it. The problem I have is my social activities. I've always used drinking and cocaine as a buffer. I use it like to start a conversation because I get anxiety. So if I have a cocktail. And I said this before, drinking necessarily really isn't the problem. It was the cocaine, but they go hand in hand. So I had to quit them both because if I'm having a drink, I'm looking for a bag.
Got to stop everything.
I had to quit it all. But now I'm like, I have to relearn myself because I've been doing drugs and alcohol for 20 years, right? I've been using the cocaine and the alcohol in all my social settings. I'm in the entertainment business, so there's obviously alcohol everywhere. And now I'm learning, like, for instance, we had our premiere party last night and I had anxiety and I was like, okay, how am I going to make conversation with executives, producers? How am I going to talk without having my buffer? And I'm learning to do that. And it's hard. That's the hard part for me. It's not the stopping the alcohol and the drinking. It's learning how to be social again without it.
So you're going to change so much in the next 6 months. And I would also say the next 12 to 24 months, but particularly in the next 6 months, that these kinds of feelings will be completely different. Okay. And you will be attracted by and attracted to completely different people once you're well along in your sobriety. And if you can, I would urge you to minimize all of this. Don't put yourself in those situations you possibly can. Just
be a
minimize
little selfish.
I don't know, be selfish, but just the way you're being abstinence on alcohol, abstinence, cocaine, to give yourself the room to grow and develop. You got to do that with relationship. I mean, what's the first rule of sobriety? No relationship for the first year, because you change so much in that year that if you get involved with people, they lock you to who you are now. And you just stay that way. You don't grow the way you need to. And how we function in relationships is a big part of where the growth comes. But speaking of that, I want to go back. You have a question about that? I see some curiosity on your face.
No, I'm just taking everything you have to say because that makes a lot of sense. Not getting involved in a relationship the very first year out of being sobriety makes a lot of sense because, like I said, what's been going on right now is I don't like leaving my house. It's because I'm so, like I said, I've been stuck in this way of doing things for so long that I'm trying to relearn. So I stay home a lot. I don't go out a lot. And if I do go out, I'm out for about 20, 30 minutes and I leave. And I ghost. I don't tell anybody. I just leave.
Again, everything's got to be reflected off people in the program to the extent that you're able, which is, am I becoming agoraphobic? Am I isolating? Am I having social sort of anxiety? And to what extent should I be pushing myself? And to what extent should I be that's fine. Stay home. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
Read
I'm
the
trying
big
to
book.
find a happy medium. I'm
Yeah,
trying to not
right.
go out too much. I'm
Yeah.
trying to please my producers, my executives, my team. I'm trying to show that I'm there, not trying to be the victim.
Mm.
I just want to baby step it. I'm baby stepping everything,
Yeah,
I'm just
good.
being
That's
very
good.
careful of how I do everything.
I would say that's good, but as much as possible, try not to make decisions completely on your own. Try to get people from the program to always reflect your decisions off somebody else, because as I said, even the good decisions, your disease will take advantage of somehow. That's when they say the disease is cutting and powerful. That's what they're talking about, and you will unknowingly enlist other people who are not in the program to co-sign or cooperate with, or amplify some bad choices without you knowing it.
Yeah.
Without you even knowing it. It's just it's a crazy thing. It's such an interesting thing to watch and be a part of when you're helping people through this. But I want to go back to the trauma, the PTSD, and the bipolar, right?
Okay.
So are you on medication for bipolar now?
I am. I've been on medication for about 140 days.
Okay.
I wish I would. It's called Lamicidal.
Lamicidal. Are you on the full dose now, or are you still going up?
250 now.
Okay.
I started out
pretty
much.
Much. You're right.
I'm in my sweet spot.
It's a slow. You start at 25 or 50, and you slowly go up.
And I got to tell you, when I got on it, I started crying. It's life changing. I wish I would have got on this years ago. I let things roll off my back. I don't have much anger issues. I'm very calm for the most part. I still kind of go a little bit here and there, but for the most part, I'm very calm.
Good.
It was when I went to rehab and they kind of diagnosed me with bipolar, PTSD, OCD. It was because I'm such an alpha male. I'm not the type of guy that asks for help. I tuck the tail between my legs. And this is the first time in my 45 years of life that I had to ask for help because I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't bear the weight. And I surrendered.
Look, and we have help. That's the thing. We have stuff we can do for you, and you're taking advantage of it. Good for you. Lamicidal is a great medication.
I'm on it, and I absolutely love it. I never miss a day, and it's literally changed my life. I wish I would have took it sooner. Probably would have saved my marriage. Probably would have saved a lot of friendships. But again, I was so stubborn, and I grew up a different way. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s where men really didn't ask for help, and it's not my dad's fault. It's not my grandfather's fault. It's just how they were taught, and we just didn't talk about feelings. We didn't talk about emotions just because it wasn't really. You just shove it under the rug and deal with it. You're a man. Deal with it.
Well, and sometimes that works, and for you it worked for a while, and now it doesn't work, and you have to do something different.
It didn't, because like I said, I've hit a point in my life where I have a son now, and I don't want my son to have to deal with what I dealt with, where he's sweeping under the rug. I want to break the cycle and be like,
good for you.
You know what? I want you to talk about what's going on. Tell me what's going on. This is the trust room. Anything you say stays here.
Right.
And I just think it's a really big deal. Like I'm not an emotional person, and I've cried more in the last 4 years than I have in my whole life. Just because I'm being vulnerable and I'm letting myself down and I'm surrendering, and I'm just like, I can't deal with it anymore.
So just for people that are listening, Lamicidal is actually it's kind of a seizure medication that is extremely clean. It has almost no side effects except this one famous side effect, which is rash. And that's why we start low and slowly increase it, because the rash can be pretty intense. But otherwise, when it works magnificently for bipolar, it's just a way of in bipolar, the brain is sort of off. It goes to extremes, and this sort of dampens those extremes a little bit. It doesn't eliminate your emotions. It doesn't block anything. It just dampens the extremes of the neurological tissue. I think of it as like bipolar is like a kindling on a fire. You kindle it, and then the fire goes. Well, the Lamicidal just keeps that fire from burning too hot.
And my anger issues it was bad. I mean, anything and everything would trigger me. And unfortunately, I go home to my wife and then I take it all out on her. It didn't matter what it was. I get up in the morning, somebody cuts me off in traffic. I go to the grocery store, they don't have what I'm looking for. I go to the DMV, they piss me off. I go, all these things would piss me off during the day. And instead of handling it in the moment, I would go home. And unfortunately, who was ever my target line was my wife, and I would just take it out all on her, and it wasn't fair to her, and she couldn't handle it anymore, and my anger just got the best of me. The thing about all these things is people don't get to the capitulation that they need to get to really lean into the help until they lose a lot of things. You have to lose it all. And like I said, my whole life I've been given wiggle room. I've always been put on a pedestal my whole life with my family, with everything, and I finally hit a point where they were not giving me wiggle room anymore. I used all my lives. I had to go to therapy. I had to put the work in. And I thought, how can I fix? In the beginning, I was like, how can I fix this? How much money can I throw at this to make this go away? And I'm realizing this is one of those things that you got to put the work in. And going into rehab, I'm not kidding you. I stood outside that door for probably 10 minutes, and I'm like, I'm not going in here. My ego was way too big. I don't need this place. Everybody else is wrong, not me. And it took me a while just to walk in there. And
so let's stop right there. Let's stop right there. One of the things you'd asked me today is, am I really a narcissist? And so one of the features of narcissism is not imagining that you're responsible for the circumstances of your life. It's all out there. It's not inside.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of describing that. However, the one situation where that can really change is in the setting of addiction, because all addicts eventually get to kind of a narcissistic place. That's how you maintain the disease. I mean, that's what the disease does. It makes you a narcissist or a sociopath or a borderline. And so all those cluster B personality disorders, everyone that comes into addiction treatment has what looks like a cluster B personality problem, but you often see dramatic improvement and dramatic change. You know, it's almost the case, and I think you'll agree with me on this. When I look at the literature on that, I always wonder, are they, is it just the one circumstance where you really see these disorders get better, or is it the disease causing these personality traits, and we treat the disease, the traits get better? I think the one thing you'll agree with me on, it doesn't really matter which comes first. They have to be dealt with in order for you not to die of addiction. You have to get better.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It's been a process, but I tell you what, now I can't imagine myself not going to AA. Now I'm obsessed with going. I love going to therapy, but it was a process for me to go to therapy, a process for me to get to go to these places, because again, I just didn't think, what is this person going to do? What are they going to tell me that I don't already know? What kind of bullshit are they going to preach? Where are they going to throw God in my face? Nothing against God. I'm a religious person, but what are they going to throw at me to make things all better? And I finally just surrendered, and I gave it a try, and I can't imagine myself not going anymore.
Good.
And it's
That's
really,
good.
really
That's
helps
good.
me.
There'll be many layers to this, and it won't always feel good to you.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't feel good. And I said it. It took me a while for me to say my name. In fact, I said it just recently. My name is Jackson. I'm an alcoholic. That was the hardest thing for me to say out loud. And I actually had tears in my eyes. I'm like, oh my God, I just said that out loud for the first time. And it was really tough. But I tell you what, you got to rebuild. You got to rebuild. And you're seeing all these people in this room all going through different stories. And I'm like, oh my God, a lot of this is also very the same. It's almost like we're all the same. We've all gone through the same processes of, like, when we're drunk or when we're looking for drugs. It's just very sad.
Yeah, it is, and it does reproduce itself over and over. It's very predictable. It's very,
and it's like there's no cure. There's no cure. It's you just have to work. You have to work and work and work. And you got to work the steps, and you got to stay with your sponsor, like I said. And unfortunately, fortunately, I have a really good job. I'm very blessed, but it does come with its demons.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I have to be very.
And hopefully you'll be able to manage all that.
My goal is to show people, and like people, you're going to see next season coming out, a very, very dark place with me, a shell of a human being, a disgusting human being, a verbally abusive human being. And I was in my darkest place, going through a divorce, getting separated, losing my house, almost losing my child, going to rehab twice, being diagnosed with bipolar, all these things. It was a lot. And the fact that I'm still standing here is a miracle. But I have a little boy that's looking up to me, and my goal was to make sure that I'm there for him, that he can one day say his dad worked it and got better for me. And that's my goal. But anyway, I want to go on to this other thing. I didn't want to get off sidetrack.
Wait, before you do, I have one more thing, and that is something we've not talked about, which is trauma.
Yeah.
So childhood trauma is the rocket fuel of addiction. And you said you have complex or some sort of PTSD, which suggests that you have some childhood trauma.
No, not childhood. No, I have, not so much as like physical or any verbal. I just think, we were raised in the 80s and the 90s. It was a little bit of a different time. And I lost my father. Right before I got married. My father hasn't seen, wasn't at my wedding, didn't see my son be born. And I was very close with my dad. And I just, and that was right in the middle of filming Vanderpump Rules, around season 5 or something like that. And it was tough for me. It was very, very tough. But we were filming so much that I skated over it, because we were working so much. So I really didn't get to sit with the grief. I didn't really get to sit with my feelings. And I think now 6 years later, it's starting to hit me more. It's starting
Yeah.
to hit my all of a sudden because I
Yes.
need my dad. I need
Right.
my father, and I don't have him.
So it's unresolved grief, right? Which
Yeah.
is, again, addiction delays everything, right? It puts everything on hold. You can't deal with anything, whether it's your adolescent development or whether it's your grief or whatever. It all has to now get done. You're now starting to have feelings, and you got to kind of process them. It takes time. But my point is, the only point I want to make is there's sort of the addiction and the recovery, which is requisite to get better. And then there's the bipolar and the PTSD and the grief and all this other stuff, which also needs to get worked through because it will, again, fuel the addiction. They go back and forth, these two things. And if you really work on the, whether you get EMDR or grief therapies or all these different kinds of therapies, CBT, you'll need all of them, but you got to stay with it for a long time.
Right.
Then you will achieve something I call full recovery, which is you'll not just be a recovering person, you'll not just be not using and drinking, but you will be a different person, just like you're saying you want to be for your son.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whatever personality stuff people think they're seeing now in you, that will change dramatically.
That's my goal. I definitely want people to see that. I'm eager for people to see that, but also at the same time, I think they'll see it over time. I'm just really, my goal, my focus is my little boy. That's the only thing I care about. I want to make sure he has the best life possible, regardless of his mother and I, where we stand going through divorce. I told her we need to put this aside. We need to make sure our little boy has a great life, make sure he needs everything and knows that his mom and dad love him more than anything, regardless of our living situations.
Well, Jax, I think the challenge for you, again, I work with a lot of people with this thing, and I sort of trust kind of what I feel about people at certain stages of recovery. My bet is for you that your most, how should I say this? Because this is not meant to be pejorative. This is meant to be just the fact that rigorous honesty, and I mean rigorous honesty, is the requisite for you continuing to get better. And I suspect that is somewhat challenging for you. So you have to constantly check yourself, constantly know that no matter how tough it is, rigorous honesty is what you need to do to achieve that thing for your son.
That's 100% accurate. Yeah. I didn't. Yeah. I know. You're 100% right. There's times where I would just try to create my own narrative to make sure everybody was happy.
And you've survived that way. You've done it forever. You can't do it. You can't do it. You have to every step of the way. And if you don't, it's okay. You're not perfect, but reset, admit it, go talk to your sponsor, tell whoever you lied to, whatever.
I used to lie to my therapist, somebody that I was paying money to help fix me. Sure. I used to lie to them. I'm like, what the hell am I? I'm lying to the person that I'm paying to help me.
Hey man, I sat with a guy once. One of my favorite stories is this guy was a heroin addict, and he it's why you need people that understand this condition if you're working with them in close therapy. And he's in there, he had his third near-death overdose, and he's sitting in front of me sobbing, and I like this kid. I could feel his pain. It was like, oh my God, he's so desperate. He's so his pain is so profound with this illness. And I've learned, just like I was explaining to you about the lying, I've learned to trust whatever I feel that's going to come out of my mouth. And all of a sudden I said to this kid, I didn't know I was going to say this. I just said it all of a sudden, man, you are so full of shit. I don't know what is going on anymore. I don't know what's real and what isn't. And he stopped crying and he looked at me, and I thought, oh my God, he's going to swing at me. And he said, I know. I don't know anymore. I don't know what's bullshit. I don't know what isn't. How did you know that? And I thought, well, I just felt it. I felt that you got to be careful, man. This disease has you. You're full of shit all the time, and you got to know that. And you got to.
Because it's embarrassing. It's utterly embarrassing. Some of the stuff that you do, and you don't even want to come to realize that you've done these things and you're acting this way. And then when you say it out loud to somebody that you're paying to help, you're like, this person's going to look at me like a, and you're worried about it. And you shouldn't.
I promise you, we've heard it all before.
I know. I know.
Like you said, it's so reproducible. It happens over and over the same way. I promise we've heard it.
It's slowly starting to happen for me because you hit the nail on the head. There was times where I would just bullshit myself. I was just,
of course,
but it's slowly happening now where I'm being vulnerable and I'm being very open about the certain things that I've done. I've come clean about certain things and behaviors that I've done over the years where I was going to take to the grave. But now I'm like, what's the point? I got to help. The only way people are going to help me is if I tell them the honest to truth and where I was, because then they can help figure me out. Because if I'm only hurting myself by lying to them. I'm not doing anything, you know?
Yeah, it's hard, man. It's
It
hard.
is.
But it is the work, and it's just be patient, and keep doing it, and progress, not perfection, you know. And then so to that point, you wanted me to measure you on a narcissistic inventory scale.
real quick, if you can do it, we'll make this short. But so I want to try, like I said, something different. I've never really done this before on my podcast, because but I'm just interested in to pick your brain and really see what you kind of think of me, you know. So I kind of want to flip this interview, if you don't mind, and take and have you take the floor, ask me a few questions, and dissect my answers, and let me know what your thoughts are, if you don't mind. I'm on this podcast. I'm kind of like all about completely being open and honest now, and showing the good, the bad, the ugly, because there's no point in lying to everybody. You need to be honest with everybody. So I'm just really interested in getting your thoughts. So I think you guys are going to love this one. So Dr. Drew had me fill out a narcissism assessment, and he's going to score it, and we're going to share the results. And this is the first time I've ever done this. I don't know if I'm going to regret this or not, but here we go. Okay. Well, I will remind you that people that come into addiction treatment typically have a cluster B level of functioning, which are the narcissistic disorders, right? So it would be weird if you weren't above average, which you are. You are above average. You are a 29. And the highest score I've ever seen is 34. Oh, so, but I'm going to predict. Oh my gosh! I'm going to predict that if we do you again in a year, we should make a date to do it. We should do it again in a year. There will be a dramatic drop in that score. You know what? And there's probably one or two in there that I may have, you know, I probably could have been a little higher, maybe. Listen, I was being as vulnerable as I can, but there's some on there that I'm looking that I cringe. Like, oh, well, they're hard. They're weird. It's a weird test. It's a forced choice, and the answers are very kind of close, but the one you choose has meaning. Like, I would read the question. I didn't even have to go to the second or third. I was like, yep, that's me. Yep, that's me. Yep. I could just keep going down. It was just, I was like, it was so extreme. Let's talk about that. So the liability, so we're talking about narcissistic traits. We're not diagnosing you with a disorder. I wrote a book about this called The Mirror Effect, where we gave 250 celebrities this test, and celebrities all tested up, you know, above average. That's just, and they all had a lot of trauma and stuff like that. And so trauma is kind of what sets this up. It's a way of kind of getting from the world what you need, but you're disconnected from some of the more tender aspects of what's going on with yourself. And so people with high levels of these scores struggle with a lot of things, struggle with a lot of feelings. They're not, it's not like they're, enjoying all this. They as you've already described, there's a lot of stuff that comes with these strategies, but they work for a period of time and then they stop working. They don't work well, and their most liability is when you're in a relationship. That's when they can really become problematic. So let's talk about the feelings associated with these disorders. Do you feel a lot of emptiness? Is emptiness a feeling you're familiar with? Yes. Right. And that's not normal. That is a feature of this. How about in terms of a sense of, now that you're letting down your guard a little bit, your sense of who you are, like a stable sense of identity? Is that in question now, or do you still have a sense of that? I'm trying to find my identity again, because I don't think I knew, for the last 14 years of being on TV, I built this character, this Jax character, this who I am, this persona. Yes. So I don't want him anymore. Okay. We call that a pseudo self. Yeah. And the pseudo self is there to protect this kind of tender core that you're trying to get in touch with. I don't want people to see my vulnerability. I didn't want that. Like, then it showed weakness, and then it showed, okay, he's not who we think he is. That's right. And that core, that tenderness will grow and evolve and strengthen. It's just not gotten what it's need thus far, so you've had to protect it. Yeah. And so your work in recovery and therapy stuff will be being with that part and being with the emptiness too. The emptiness can be very uncomfortable to be with. It's very uncomfortable, especially right now. Like like I said, I'm at the bottom of the barrel right now, trying to find myself and trying to be comfortable with my own self. I'm very codependent. It's hard, man. It's hard. And people who don't know what this is or have not been through this with somebody, it may sound vague, but trust me, it is intense and it is uncomfortable. Now, the other kinds of liabilities that come along are feelings of shame. Yeah, got that.
Okay. And then the other, and the more unpleasant feeling that sometimes people get is, in terms of what unpleasant to be around, is envy. Do you experience envy and jealousy, that kind of thing?
Yes.
Or did you when you
No,
were,
I still do.
yeah,
I do, and I struggle with it because like I said, I'm changing right now. I'm changing, and
yeah.
I'm jealous of the people that are doing well, and that I've
Mm,
done exactly what they're doing. They're getting away with the things, you know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of people on our show that do the same things. And fortunately, I'm the one that kind of came out with it all, and I'm jealous of other people doing better than me. And they're still acting like idiots, but they're getting more than I am. And I'm feeling like, was this a good idea for me to be vulnerable?
right,
Because my friends that are still doing cocaine and drinking and acting like idiots are still getting all these things. And why am I not?
right.
I'm
That
taking
that's
accountability and nobody else is, and I'm getting punished for it.
that's to some extent that's real, and to some extent that's your disease talking directly to us, both you and me. And so you have to be really careful of that kind of thinking. There's much better things ahead, and when you're getting towards that stuff, when you start feeling feelings of gratitude,
Yeah.
feelings of forgiveness,
Yeah.
and you look at people like that and you go, oh boy, that I'm sort of feel sad for them
Yeah.
rather than jealous of them. So there's and you shouldn't rush any of this. I'm just sort of telling you how this is going to evolve as you stay connected with the process. And then the other thing is the ability to regulate emotions. That's the real big task here. And I'm sure you feel very, as you've described already, in social settings and whatnot, your anxiety comes in, and all that is emotional dysregulation. Some of that is your bipolar, some of that is still post-acute withdrawal, which can last for 6 to 12 months, and
Yeah.
some of it is the PTSD and the unresolved grief and all this stuff you have to deal with.
Right. And
There's
it's
so
not,
much
and like I
betterness
said,
out there. I'm telling you, there's so much good for you because you've got all this stuff can be healed.
it is. It's just people don't understand too. When you're a public figure though, and you're looked upon all the time, and you go to these events, and you have to be at these functions, and
Mm,
it's a lot different for somebody who's got a 9 to 5, and other
yes,
than
it is.
and
Yes, it is.
I'm on TV, and people are looking at me, and people are giving their comments every single day on what they
Mm,
think and all this, and you're getting infiltrated with all these opinions, and you're
mm-mm.
trying to be somebody on TV, hoping everybody likes you. It's a lot of pressure.
Stay
And
with
right.
your core team. Okay, stay with your core people that you can really trust. Be honest with everyone that you feel comfortable being honest, but be completely honest. And I'm guessing you had you worked in the world before you got on TV, right?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a major asset because it allows you to kind of, people that never actually worked in the world start really believing what's happening to them on television and as a
Yeah.
celebrity. You know that it's sort of bullshit, right? You
Right.
know it,
Right.
and that there's a core self there that you can bring forward, and that is more important than these people you don't even know opinions about this person that isn't real. This
Right.
pseudo self.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of march through it. It is stressful. It does strike you, particularly when you have shame or toxic shame flying around. It makes it extra tough because the stuff lands even when you know it shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I got to say, I'm very today, right now, real time. I'm very proud of myself of how far I've gotten. I think a lot of people didn't expect for me to make this change so quickly. Obviously I got a long way to go, but I'm on a good path, and I feel for the first time in my life, and at least for 14 years of being on TV, I
Yeah,
feel pretty good about myself.
good.
There was a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. It's going to be very tough to watch a show. The show was filmed a year ago. We premiere
Maybe you
next week.
shouldn't.
I know. I go back and forth with it, and I did watch the first episode, and I sat in my house by myself, and I watched it, and I cried, and I'm like, I have no idea who that human being is. He's a shell of a man. He was disgusting, and I look back now, 133 days later, and I'm like, I made such strides to become a better person since then. But
Good for you.
I'm very. It's going to be very sad to see this, but also it's also going to be a learning experience, and I'm really excited for people to see the growth and the different side of me now.
I don't know what you're going to have to go through or how long it's going to take, but my prediction would be that you will one day be an inspiration to others.
And that's the end goal, because putting this out there, my divorce is public knowledge.
Yeah.
Going through all of this rehab, being diagnosed with this. My son was diagnosed with autism. Like going through all of this and putting it all out there. People are like, why do you do this? Why? And it's like, what are you doing to yourself? Is the money really worth it? Is it really worth it for you to go through all this? Why don't you just go to a middle America, get a house and leave the world? Why don't you do this? Because I thought about it. It did cross my mind. But you know what? I want people to say, you know what? If he can go through this and he's on TV, man, I'm going through this as well. Maybe I can talk about it. Maybe I should get help. If Jax is going, and
Yes.
I've had people reach out to me like, you're an inspiration. Thank you so much for
I'm
saying
sure of
this.
that.
And
I'm
if I'm
sure
helping, if I can help one guy, especially a man,
You've already
men's
done that.
mental health,
You've already helped more than one. That's the
I
whole,
feel like I've done my job.
It's why I did Celebrity Rehab, exactly what you were doing, which is people should see this. It shouldn't be something we hide any more than if you needed an appendectomy and you talked about it. You know what I mean? And people it should be normalized. It should be discussed without any sort of pejorative or anything. It just
But
should
it
be
takes a lot. It takes a lot to do, especially as a man, as a public figure who is looked upon as a different way. For me to come out and, be on the cover of Us Weekly with the words cocaine, rehab, all this on the cover was a lot for me. It was an emotional going back and forth. Should I do this? Shouldn't I do this? I don't know. How are people going to take this? Am I going to have to go into hiding? Like, I didn't know, but I was like, you know what? I'm 45 years old. Fuck it. I'm going to just be honest and open. If people don't like me, I don't care, but I'm going to be as raw as I can. And hopefully somebody out there can see this and be like, you know what? Fucking Jax did it. I'm going to do it. And that's all I can hope from this.
And that will be magnificent. And as you know, there are going to be, and I'm sure there have been, and there will be good days and bad days coming ahead. And just keep marching through them. But I'm going to give you another, in addition to rigorous honesty, I'm going to give you another piece of advice, which is you need to keep your core team closer, just a little bit closer, because I feel like you're kind of isolating, you're kind of doing it on your own, and you need those people, sponsor people in the program, therapists, you need them close. Okay.
Yeah. You're right. No, you're 100% right. Because there is I have a between 2 and 4 people that I really count on a lot. And sometimes I push them aside because I think I know better.
Don't do that.
They know better. I know.
You'll relapse if you do that. And if you relapse, you relapse. You go back on the train, whatever. But this thing is so powerful.
It's so hard. But at the same time, what my go-to argument is you have no idea what it's like to be in my head. And I know people out there saying, well, you should do this and you should do that. Yes, I understand that. But until you've gone through what I've gone through, the loss, being on TV, a public figure, being publicly scrutinized all the time, it's tough to be me. And I'm not trying to play the victim, and I'm not trying to support you.
I get it.
But it's
let me
tough.
just tell you
and then
something.
When you got people that are behind the camera trying to tell you how to act, it's tough.
No. You talk to your sober peers and your therapist. They'll help you. But you just said something that struck me that we did not talk about, which is the one group of people who will typically tell me, you don't know what it's like to be in my head, are people with OCD. And so I'm guessing some of this may be a perseveration that your OCD is doing to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you spin on stuff. So, and Lamisil is actually helpful with that. But it's something to kind of think about. You talk to your therapist about sorting out, is there some component of OCD that also needs a little bit of specific attention? I don't know. That's a very striking thing when people say, you can't imagine what it's like to be in my head. Addicts will say stuff kind of like that, but the OCD patients really say that.
I just feel like, I mean, as you know, it's like, until you've lived in our shoes, how can a person who's not lived in our shoes, because you read a book, it's like a teacher, right? Those who can't do teach. You've never done it. You're reading something out of a book, and some scientist or some doctor from 30 years ago said this is why you're doing what you're doing. But you're not me. You're not living within the last 5-10 years of my life. The world has changed. Just because you wrote a book by Sigmund Freud or whatever doesn't mean you know what's going on today.
But let me just say that so the work of the therapist is to just be present with you and attuned to you and give you a frame to build your own emotional regulation, not to tell you anything necessarily, but to build a frame a safe frame where you do things. Okay. Not they tell you things, you feel safe to experience certain things.
Right.
Then on the sobriety side, yeah, you do need to listen to those people because they have been where you are.
Right.
And they do know what's going on in your head.
The sober thing's a whole different thing.
It's a different thing.
My mental health is a different thing. You know, my brain doesn't work like everybody else's, and it's frustrating to others that are trying to help me because they see the world a different way than I do, and I don't want to see it that way. I want to see it my way, and that's the hard part.
You know, I've been where you are with people many, many times, and your job is just to keep moving forward, keep struggling, keep going, and it you know, it's going to be what it's going to be, but I promise you there's just steady improvement ahead. And it's going to be, you can't predict how, and you can't think your way into it. It's going to be this experiential thing we call recovery, and it's going to surprise you, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, you know, I've noticed the more I put into it, the more I get out of it. It's like anything else, more practice. And I just got to stay on it. Consistency is a really big thing.
Willingness. And you got to be willing to become whoever you're supposed to be. Like you said, maybe I'm supposed to move to the Midwest. I don't know. Maybe you are, but I don't know. For now, you're not. Fine. Just keep
But
I'm
going. I'm also one of those people, too, who say, oh, you should move out of there. It's not, I chose this route. It's not because I live in California, because I chose this world. I choose to make the decisions that hurt me. It's not the state. It's not my job. It's not the producers. I've done it all to myself. And I always say that to people like, you know, I've been on TV for 14 years and you've always been the villain. I can say honestly, in the 14 years I've been on TV, nobody has ever done anything to me. I've done it all. I'm a self-sabotager. I do everything to myself. When things are going well, I get worried. And then I say, how can I fuck this up? Because I thrive in chaos. I thrive in chaos. I like things when things are going wrong because I feel better about it. When things are going right, that's when I get worried. Then when things are going good, that's when I have to check in with somebody. I'm like, okay, don't fall off the wheels. I know things are going good right now. Don't sabotage it because that's what I do.
Have you talked to people in the program about that? That's there is a subset of people in the program that really would identify with that.
Yeah, we're getting to that. We're getting to those. We're hitting some other, you know, steps and stuff, but we're getting to those points. But that's a crazy thing to say. Like, you know, most people say, well, this person did this to me. No one's ever done anything to me. Never.
Well, it's crazy to the self-sabotage thing. The way I think of it is there are gambling addicts that the non-addict can't get this in their head. And the gambling ones that are fit your profile there are the ones that baffle people the most. So what I tell them, there's all kinds of different gambling addicts, but one version is gambling addict that gets high losing. They have to actually they have to get into desperate circumstance before they're happy, before they're good with their gambling. And that's kind of what you're describing. You have to put yourself in desperate circumstance, in chaos, before you feel okay.
Thank God I don't have a gambling issue. That would be a whole nother ball game. But
I know what direction you would go.
God,
be good.
Luckily, it makes me mad if I lose $20. So thank God.
Okay, good.
That area. But so I'm going to branch into something else real quick, which has also kind of been a problem for me as well, and it's kind of embarrassing. But the sex addiction. Yeah. There's something with that there, and I don't know where that's coming from.
Let me just say that it's exceedingly common. I would dare say it's a feature of most addiction. And unfortunately, very few people in recovery really deal with that the way they should. So the fact that you're looking at it with a clear head early in your treatment is a great sign. It is something. It takes people out more than anything else, because it, brings you back into relationships prematurely, and you get in situations where you're lying and whatever. It's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. And so the hard part for people is they really resist going to 12-step for this. But now there's SA, SLA, SLAA, and they're all available on Zoom. And you can find these meetings really easily. You don't have to turn your camera on. You don't even have to speak up. But going to those meetings and listening to the patterns, just so you go to 12-step meetings, those guys know they've been through it. They do exactly what I do. You will hear the same thing in SA, and it can be very, very powerful and very, very meaningful. So I'd urge you to do that. You just, go in and listen. So all you got to do.
Where do you think the sex addiction stems from? Where does it come from?
Yeah, it has so many different ways in. Trauma is usually there, often being An avoidant personality can get you there too, and you've got a certain amount of avoidance going on. That's what creates the narcissism. And you don't really. There's various routes. The most common route is trauma. These days, the most common route is early porn exposure. These kids are getting exposed to pornography at age 9, and it's overwhelming for them.
Well, the access to it is so easy now. You know, you can have it. You have it in the palm of your hand.
That's right. It's having a crack pipe in your hand all the time.
From what my friends have told me, you watch these videos, right? And you build up this scenario in your head. And then when you go to be with your significant other, it doesn't come out that way. It doesn't plan that way.
Correct.
It goes a different route, and you can't feel the same sensations or get the same arousal as when you're watching porn.
That is definitely one version of this. And there's multiple other sort of variations on the theme. Trauma is in there almost always. Intimacy, sort of shortcomings is there. Control. It's all the same stuff. It's all the same stuff, but it does need its own sort of. There are actually programs now that deal just with this. I mean,
that's what.
And I don't mean 12-step programs. I mean. I feel
like I would go in there and try to sleep with the whole place.
No. And well, there are men's. You go to men's group, right? And
men's day, men. Oh, that's probably good. That's probably good. There's a men's one.
Yeah, but there are treatment in LA in particular. There's some excellent treatment centers for healthy sex and sex addiction, and they're remarkable. They do wonderful work. There may be something, as things evolve, your therapist may advise you to do some of that stuff. I don't know. We'll see. It's pretty easy to deal with. It's easier to deal with when you're not in a relationship, I'd say.
I think for right now, it's harder to kick probably my sexual desire. It's a lot easier to quit alcohol and drugs rather than my sexual desires. Is that weird?
It's kind of like an eating disorder too, right? You still have to have sex. You still have to eat. These things, but they have to be moderated in such a way that you're not doing it in a sexually compulsive or highly arousing way. And you're not exploiting people, and you're not lying, you're not bullshit. All the stuff that goes into the addiction has to stop. And then you have to find a healthy sex.
Yeah, I have, what I would do is, which is terrible to do, is like I would get in with these girls and kind of love bomb them, tell them what they want to hear, instead of just being completely honest, saying, hey, this is what it is. I would just tell them what they want to hear. You can't exploit
other people anymore. You can't do that. You won't stay sober. Can't do that.
Yeah. And
people cannot be treated as object or as drugs. You can't do it.
I know. And that's when it was a problem, because I just thought, okay, well, you tell them what you want to hear, you get what you need.
No, it's not uncommon. People that, if anybody's shocked that Jack says that, don't be. It's very common, exceedingly common. And really the sad part is very few people get as honest as you're even being right now, or certainly ever get help for it. So Good for you. Good for you for being, to me, it's a sign of your willingness to really be vulnerable and be honest. But
it's sad. I don't know how I got here.
Zoom in at some SA meetings. Seriously, don't listen. Don't turn your camera on. Don't get into it. You just go listen to because you're somebody that you feel like nobody else is experiencing these things, and you'll hear the same goddamn thing you do. You'll see.
That's how I felt when I go to AA. I'm like, no one's going to understand me. Then I go in there. I'm like, holy shit, I was that person at 4 a.m. scraping the cocaine.
You know who's funny? Do you know who Jason Ellis is?
I heard of him.
Yeah, he's a fighter and a skateboard guy and a podcaster on the radio.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and he said to me the other day, because he was coming to terms with his sex addiction, he was like, "Holy shit, I have that too." Those guys are, oh my god, that's how I think. He was like so astonished that he went to a meeting and there was all his stuff, and he was like, "Oh shit, I got to deal with this too."
Because I've done such bizarre things, such like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. The things that I've done, I'm so cringe. And then when you go to a meeting and you have the guy next to you say the same exact thing, you're like, "Holy shit, He was scraping the ground for cocaine too at 3 a.m.
It's your condition.
Love bombing and texting people at 4 a.m. to come over.
It's a condition. It's shameful. It does make you shameful things. You're going to have to make amends and all that stuff eventually when the time comes. But it's something that is manageable, and it's not who you are. It's your condition. Got it?
Yeah, I would love to be part of some more of your. If you ever have a focus group with any other your celebrity clients,
well, I think now that I think about it, a really interesting that I think we did some of this. I end up doing some of this kind of thing with many, at some point with celebrity, particularly reality people that get sober.
Yes,
is we meet on camera. We sort of bring it all the way home for the audience so they can understand what's happening here.
That would be awesome. Like if you get like 4 or 5, between 4 to 8 people, and you all get on a Zoom and you all talk about your problems or issues, and you hear each other out, and you're vulnerable and you're okay with being open. I think it would be great. I think
something like that. You guys think about it. I'm willing to help out, however, but just don't get off track. Just stay focused on your sobriety.
No, I know, but it's nice to hear other people though, and I get comfort in hearing other people's stories, because then I feel like I'm not the only degenerate out there.
You're not. I promise.
What can I plug of yours?
The big one is Ask Dr. Drew, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 2:00 Pacific. Now, sometimes we move it to 3. I've just been doing interviews I started doing it as interviews with people that were canceled, because I thought, I bet they have something to say. And lo and behold, they did.
Wow,
and
that's
awesome. One of them is now the head of the National Institute of Health. I mean, it's like, and one of them is now the head of the HHS. I mean, I was interviewing Jay Bhattacharya and Robert Kennedy before anybody else got to them, because I was like, that doesn't seem right. And we just kind of kept going and interviewing interesting people. And it's been an interesting and good project. So
I gotta check that out.
And I don't know. Check out TWC. I work with the guys at V-Shred. It's just a lot of interesting stuff I get to do these days, try to help people with their health and wellness.
That's awesome, man. And thank you so much. And your Instagram handle is?
Dr. Drew Pinsky, and then Twitter is @Dr. Drew.
Thank you so much again, Dr. Drew, for being on. I really, really appreciate it. Hopefully, I really respect you, and I hope I get to talk to you again. And
I hope we will do more, because I've never really heard you talk quite like this, and I think people need to see it. And I think you need to do it. So
I appreciate it. Again, thank you so much, and have a great weekend.
You too.
Stream all the movies and shows you love for free on Pluto TV.
Say what now?
Showtime. That means drama is free, with heart-wrenching stories from Love and Basketball, Power, and Greenleaf.
In this family, we live by the Spirit.
And laughter is free with gut-busting comedies like Key and Peele, The Neighborhood, Everybody Hates Chris, and Boomerang. Watch all the hits, all for free, from all your favorite devices.
Oh my God, I love it!
Feel the free Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.